Hi everyone, this is Dr. Jimenez, and I wanted to give you a history of educational technology primer before you go into reading this week's assignment from Roblier and Hughes, which is pages 1 through 15 in chapter 1. And in terms of viewing the upcoming video that you're going to see that covers the history of educational technology from the 1800s to 2010. This primer will go into a brief discussion around the definitions of educational technology, how to look at them from different perspectives, but more importantly, it'll give you some examples of educational technology that actually existed before the 1800s. Because one of the things I do want to get across is that educational technology is not a recent development. The Roblier and Hughes textbook chapter that you're going to read this week is going to focus on what we call the digital educational technology tools, and it's going to give you the trends and history of that in the 1900s to the present time. And the video that you're going to watch is really going to focus more so on the 1800s. So this will kind of give you a bit of a more, I would say, rounded perspective, if you will. So let's just jump right into it. In terms of educational technology, one of the biggest challenges that I find is I have people that ask me all the time, so what do you do? And when I tell them I am an instructor of educational technology, unless it's somebody that is in educational technology or in education, I usually get this weird blank look of, what does that mean and how does that work? Well, part of that is because the term educational technology is used synonymously with many other terms. And when you're researching educational technology, you may find that some instructors may refer to educational technology as instructional media, instructional technology. Some might refer to it as ICTs, also known as information and communications technologies. All of these terms coming together form the basis of what we will refer to in this class as educational technology. So you may see some documents and some inferences to this throughout the work. I know Roblier and Hughes actually specifies the fact that they look at educational technology and instructional technology as being one and the same. So when you see these different terms used for our purposes, just keep in mind that what we are referring to is educational technology itself. So before we can even get into the term educational technology and what it means, the fact is that there are various definitions of educational technology. Before we can even get into those definitions, I wanted to define two terms. Now, when it comes to the term education, education is another term that has various different meanings and connotations depending on who you talk to. For our purposes, I'm going to talk a little bit about the definition provided to us by J. Michael Spector, who was a former president of the Association of Educational Communications and Technology. And Spector defines education as the process of improving one's knowledge, performance, and overall understanding through a systemic, or in this case, a systematic and sustained effort. Now, when you think about education, what is the promise of education? That we will improve ourselves, we will grow, we will be able to, in the future, amass the knowledge of skills needed so that we can get better jobs, improve our livelihood, and so forth. So education in and of itself can be seen as a process, and it can be seen as a process that's used to improve the human condition. That's another reason why we look at education as being an equalizer in society, making sure that we are offering education to not one particular segment or another segment, but it's a feature, a tool, a resource that's offered to all. And that is something that I think is very important for us to think about when it comes to education. Because if we want to help people improve their knowledge and improve their performance and understanding on a topic, we as educators, we as educational technologists need to understand what we're in the business of. And part of that definition is to look at education and say, we're here to help people improve their knowledge, their skill, their performance, their understanding. And that makes a lot of sense when you think about what teachers do on a daily basis. Now, when it comes to the term technology, you may find that technology is another term that can mean various different things depending on which perspective you're looking at. Sometimes technology is referred to in the context of mechanical items. A car can be seen as a technology. A refrigerator can be seen as a technology. But when you look at it from a much more broader perspective, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary looks at technology from three perspectives. One, technology is the practical application of knowledge in a particular area. And it can also be seen as a capability that's given by the practical application of knowledge. So if I think of it from this first definition, it's the practical application of knowledge. When you think about it, if you look at a refrigerator as a key example, you are using a refrigerator for very specific purposes, right? To cool food, to preserve it, to keep it as fresh as possible for as long as possible. So when we look at technology, technology serves a practical application. And in educational technology, we are constantly looking for technologies that can serve a specific application to help students learn or focus on a topic. Maybe it's to help them understand math concepts, or to improve their reading, or to get them to come out of their shell and, record themselves and share their thoughts in a safe environment. So when it comes to technology, it's not just about practical applications, because when you look at the second definition, technology can also be seen as a manner of accomplishing a task, especially using technological processes, methods, or knowledge. So we're trying to complete something, we're trying to do something, and we're using technology to enable us to do that. Some sort of technology. Now, technology doesn't necessarily have to be mechanical. There's various levels of technology that have existed throughout history, such as the pen, the pencil. Paper is a technology. And that's something that I think is important for us to understand, because when we think about technology, it's not just about your phone, it's not just about the apps that you download, it's not about your Google account. Technology is very broad, and it can definitely be applied in various contexts. The third definition is that technology deals with specialized aspects of a particular field or endeavor. In our case, we're looking at technology for the explicit purpose of helping students to enhance their learning, which goes back to their our overall definition of using technology to help people know more, understand more, etc. When you go and combine the definitions of education and technology together, it really does give us a couple of perspectives. Now, the definition that I wanted to share with you is from the Association of Educational Communications and Technology. They provide the following definition, which is that educational technology is the study and ethical practice of facilitating learning and improving performance by creating, using, and managing appropriate technological processes and resources. Notice the key term, technological processes and resources. It's not just saying that you have to use a computer. You can use a variety of different elements. Maybe you're using a learning management system. Maybe you're using Google Classroom, the G Suite, or any of these other tools that will enable and support learning. That's what educational technology does. And it helps us in not only achieving our educational goals, but in providing ways to help those students reach those goals supported by the technology, which goes back to the overall concept of making sure that when we talk about implementing educational technology, we are always looking at the pedagogy first. How do students learn? What's the main goal that we need to achieve? And ultimately, looking at the technology as a secondary element in which we use the technology to support the overall learning goals and objectives. A second definition is provided by Spector. It looks at how educational technology involves the disciplined application of knowledge for the purpose of improving learning, instruction, and or performance. So part of that is understanding, again, what are the learning goals, what are the objectives, and how do we help students to ultimately apply this knowledge and improve this knowledge, their understanding of a given topic, and how do we use technology to help support that learning. So these definitions are important because one of the things I'm going to want you to do this week, both Professor LaHoulier and I want you to look at the definitions that are provided about educational technology in this presentation and in our textbook, and I want you to really think about, how do you define educational technology? What's your elevator pitch, if you will, if you had to explain to somebody what educational technology is? So we've covered two definitions that could be of help to you, but definitely read the Roblier and Hughes chapter to give you additional perspectives. With that, some other examples I want to get into, because the video that you're going to watch today talks about from the 1800s and forward. Let me talk about some of the more ancient levels of what we would consider to be educational technology. Remember, an educational technology can help facilitate the learning process. Well, think of pictograms and language as being a technology. It's not mechanical, but it helps people to learn. We can learn things about how people think, their ideas, through pictograms, through the way that they share their thoughts and ideas. We've seen this throughout history in the form of caveman paintings that give us a sense of what people were trying to communicate, or what stories they were trying to communicate. We see that in the form of, in this case, clay tablets that are found in ancient Mesopotamia and other parts of the ancient world, where stories, concepts, ideas, laws were written in clay tablets. In other countries and in other parts of the world, we saw similar pictograms and hieroglyphs also included in wood carvings. So in this case, these tools serve as the medium to communicate information. We see this in ancient Egypt and in ancient Judea, Palestine, in the form of hieroglyphics, in this case, papyrus scrolls. Again, these were all technologies because they were helping people to learn ideas and concepts, whether it was religious text or practical text, or even the laws of the day. We also were able to teach math concepts in the ancient world through the use of abacuses, which is an ancient technology, a couple of pieces of wood and beads put together, as well as textbooks. Yes, a textbook is a technology. We didn't always have a textbook. And the process of replicating these textbooks, whether it was manual transcription or once we get into the latter parts of the 19th century, when we start getting into the printing press, technology has been around with us since the dawn of time. And when we think about educational technology, we really need to look at the fact that technology has been around forever. It's just a question of how we use it and in what context do we use it for learning. So I'm not going to go through this entire definition here, but when it comes to technology, technology is always changing. It's about change. And it's important for us, as noted by Spector, that we need to also change. We need to revisit and rethink ideas and solutions, because maybe we thought of ideas that didn't work today, but maybe with some advancements in certain technologies, we now have the ability to take our learning to entirely new directions. And part of that is by revisiting what we've done in the past and being flexible, because again, technology is always changing. Therefore, we as educators, we as educational technologists must also change and be flexible as well. So in terms of next steps, please make sure that as a follow-up to this, you go back and you watch your History of Educational Technology video link that I provided you in the content section of our Blackboard site. Make sure you read Roblier and Hughes from pages 1 to 15, in this case to the top of page 15, and we look forward to your post for this week. Thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.